For decades, our whole understanding of sexual desire has been based on this one really simple map. But what if that map was, well, incomplete, especially for women? Today, we're going to explore a brand new, much more dynamic model that science is starting to uncover about the incredibly intricate world of female arousal. So let's start by questioning the very foundation of that old map. So let's just get right to it and ask a really fundamental question. Is sexual arousal a straight line, a simple step-by-step thing that just goes from start to finish? For the longest time, the main scientific model said, yep, it sure is. And that model is the classic four-phase cycle. This is the traditional linear map of arousal that really has dominated how we think about this for decades. According to this classic model, it's all a very neat, predictable sequence. First, you feel desire. That desire builds into arousal, then it climaxes in orgasm, and finally, it all fades away in resolution. Each stage is supposed to lead right into the next, kind of like a set of dominoes falling one after another. And really, for a long, long time, this was the only map we had. It was simple, it was linear, and on the surface, it seemed to make perfect sense. But as researchers started to look a little closer, they realized this straightforward path just didn't line up with the real-life experience of so many women. And that brings us to a much more complex reality and a really important question. Why is that old map so incomplete? Well, the answer is that scientists started finding these huge gaps between this simple linear theory and what women were actually experiencing. Now, check out this quote from a 1994 study. It was a real turning point. It basically suggests that female sexuality is influenced by this much wider range of factors, things that go way beyond a simple physical progression. It really just highlights the need for a totally new, more nuanced model. So what exactly was missing from that old map? Well, a ton of stuff. We're talking about crucial elements like the context of the relationship, how a person feels about their own body, feelings of self-consciousness, emotional security. These are incredibly powerful forces that simple four-step model just had no way of explaining. So all of this realization that something big was missing, it led to this totally groundbreaking new theory that gives us a much more accurate picture. It's called the dual control model. And honestly, the best way to understand it is with a super simple analogy, a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So what is the dual control model? Well, at its core, it proposes that sexual response isn't just about hitting go. It's actually about the delicate balance between two completely separate systems in our brain, a sexual excitation system, or SE, and a sexual inhibition system, the SI. Okay, the absolute easiest way to get this is to think of a car. The sexual excitation system, that's your gas pedal. It's everything that turns you on, all the go signals. And this sexual inhibition system, that's your brake pedal. It's everything that turns you off or makes you hesitate, all of the stop signals. And here is the absolute key. Everybody has both of these systems. They're totally independent, and they are always working. So arousal isn't just about having gas in the tank. It's about having more gas than brake in any specific moment. It's the balance that matters. Okay, so this brings us to a really, really crucial part of this whole model. And it's the part that the old map completely ignored. What actually hits the brake? Figuring out these common sources of sexual inhibition is actually critical to understanding desire. So let's really think about that for a second. What kind of things in the real world might be pressing down on that brake pedal for women? It's not always about a lack of turn-ons. A lot of the time, it's about the presence of turn-offs. Well, one huge study actually dug into this and found some pretty common brake pedal factors. For example, things like needing to trust your partner or feel emotionally secure. That can be a powerful brake. Another big one is what they call arousal contingency. That feeling that everything has to be perfect, otherwise it's just not going to happen. And of course, worrying about sexual function, like performance anxiety, that can slam the brakes on hard. Okay, so this all sounds like a pretty solid psychological theory, right? But can we actually see it in the brain? And the answer, incredibly, is yes. Thanks to fMRI scans, researchers have literally been able to watch the gas and brake model in action. So, to test this, researchers did something pretty cool. They had women with both normal and low desire watch erotic films while they were inside an fMRI scanner. The whole point was to see if their brain activity would match what the dual control model predicted. And what they found was, wow, pretty remarkable. In the women with normal desire, the brain's gas pedal was clearly active. You could see regions associated with emotional memory, sensory processing, and engagement just lighting up like a Christmas tree. But in the women with low desire, a totally different picture. Their brake pedal was active. The parts of the brain that are all about self-monitoring and evaluating yourself, they showed way more activation. It's like they weren't just processing what they were seeing, they were watching themselves process it. And as the study's authors point out, this whole act of self-monitoring, stepping outside of the experience to judge it, is a known feature of sexual difficulties. The brain scans basically gave us the neurological proof. Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the brain scans, but why does any of this actually matter? Well, because this new model gives us a completely different way to look at desire and sexual well-being. It's a really profound shift in perspective. This model completely reframes the whole conversation. See, the old model really only led to one question. Is my gas pedal broken? But the dual control model, it opens up a whole new set of questions. Is my brake pedal maybe too sensitive? Or is there something like stress or anxiety or issues in my relationship pressing down on it? And that is so much more empowering, right? It's way less about pathologizing people. It suggests the issue isn't some broken part, but maybe just a system that's a little out of balance. It's not about being flawed, it's about understanding what's going into the system. So at the end of the day, here's the big takeaway. For so many people, it's not about a fundamental lack of desire at all. It's about understanding the specific context and the conditions, both inside you and outside of you, that affect the unique balance of your personal gas and brake pedals. And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In this whole search for desire, we've spent so much time just focused on the accelerator. But what if the real key to unlocking arousal isn't about flooring the gas, but about first understanding what's pressing on the brakes?